that is in God, you will be okay regardless of the situations that you are facing. It does not mean that challenge will not come your way, trouble will not seek you. However, hello, my name is Bongiwe and welcome to Bible and Chill. The topic for today's episode is trusting God. What inspired today's topic is the 2021 declaration for the year at Rivers of Life International Church, my church, where 2021 was actually declared as the year of total trust, where we put our total trust in the Lord. I mean, I get that we need to trust Him, but total? That puts such a heavy stamp on the whole concept. I mean, trust alone is such a heavy word and it carries a lot, especially in a day and age where a lot of us have trust issues that could be either due to childhood traumas, past relationships that did not work out the way that we had hoped that they would, or even people who just turned out to not being what they said that they were or are. Right? That causes a lot of us to have a lot of baggage around trust that we drag along to even into our relationship with God. And trust is such an important thing, more especially in relationships, and even more specifically in our relationship with God. If it wasn't really important, then there wouldn't be such constant reminders and constant emphasis on it, on the word. One of my favorite Bible verses is found in Proverbs 3, verse 5. I think it's my favorite because it is something, it's an area of my life that I'm still working on, and that is to put trust in God and not lean in my own understanding. That's that verse, yes, that one. That is something that I am trying to constantly remind. I think it's more like a constant reminder of something that I need to do. It's like in whatever that I do, I'm like, hey, do you trust Him? Do you? I'm kidding. But you know I'm not. Anywho, I'm reading from my Bible right here. It's ugly, I know. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. Another version says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will set your path straight. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. That's like the first part that we need to focus on, because we can't sort of almost trust Him or trust Him a little bit and then handle the rest or something, or we can't give Him half and then we keep the half to ourselves and stuff like that. Trust issues should not apply to God. They should not. That's the one area, that's the one aspect where you're like, alright, trust issues, we're leaving you out the door. Right now we are dealing with God. So everything, with all our hearts, we need to trust Him. And then it says, lean not in your own understanding. Here's the thing. When we're faced, it's the part that says, lean not in your own understanding. This is what I understand from it. Ooh, look at me leaning in my own understanding. Here's the thing. When we are facing trouble, right? Let's say we sit down and we plan all possible solutions. And let's say I come up with 3 possible solutions from my understanding. And someone else who knows more can come up with 3 more solutions, and in total have 6 solutions, okay? Because they have more knowledge, they have more background knowledge, they have more understanding, they are able to, and maybe let's say they are more analytical than I am when it comes to the particular problem. However, in as much as I can call as many people as I can who might know a lot about the subject of the problem that I am facing, we are still limited by our own human abilities and our own human understanding. Now imagine this. Imagine trusting someone who is all-knowing, which means that in everything that you're doing, He knows all possible outcomes, all possible solutions, and their possible outcomes. Wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, I'd rather do that. I'd I'd rather give it to someone who knows everything. But that can be very uncomfortable because I am not all-knowing, which means I cannot see all the possible outcomes and all possible solutions. I am short-sighted when it comes to some aspects. But we still need to trust Him with all our hearts and lean not in our own understandings. Okay, cool. So this verse for me, it tells me that I need to trust Him. And then we have another verse which is found in other verses that are found in Jeremiah. Jeremiah 17 verse 5 to 8. And they tell us why we need to trust Him. We'll start with verse 5 and 6. It says, "Cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart departs from the Lord. For he shall be like a shrub in the desert, and shall not see when good comes, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land which is not inhabited." Right? Okay, here's the thing about verse 5 and 6. Nothing about it is nice. The whole picture is just, it's not nice. Because these two verses actually tell us, this particular passage of the scripture actually tell us where we should not put our trust, right? Because the reason why so many of us have so many trust issues is it's because we put our trust in the wrong places, whether it was other people or we put our trust in our own abilities. And then when we get hurt or when we find ourselves in the desert we then drag all that negativity into our relationship with God, which is where we should have initially put our trust. Okay, but verse 7 and 8 says, "Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. For he is like a tree planted by the water, that sends out its roots by the stream, and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of droughts, for it does not cease to bear fruit." The nice part about these verses is the first part that says, blessed is a man who trusts in the Lord. I mean, that's all I need to hear. I mean, I can just close my Bible and go. But that's not where it ends. That's not the part that we should just only focus on. It goes on to actually explain why the person who trusts in the Lord, why the person who I almost dropped my phone. Why the person who trusts in the Lord is deemed blessed, right? It says that he is like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when the heat comes. Here's the tricky part. It does not fear even when heat comes, which means that heat will come. Adverse situations will come. But because you're planted in the right place and you're trusting in the right place, remember, the contrast is trusting in man and or trusting in your own flesh and your own abilities. That one puts you in the desert. I don't want to be in the desert. If you put your trust in the right place, and that is in God, you will be okay regardless of the situations that you are facing. It does not mean that challenge will not come your way, trouble will not seek you. However, you will be just fine. To trust Him means to put our confidence in Him. There will be situations or circumstances that will supersede our abilities. Just like a perfect example of this is actually found in Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 to 27. When the disciples, 23 to 27, when the disciples were facing a storm right in the middle of the sea, that they needed to wake Jesus up in that particular instant, because they knew that in that situation they had no control. If they had put their trust in each other or the trust in their own abilities, they would have been in the desert right in the middle of the sea. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They would have had trouble being able to handle that particular situation. In our lives as well, there are particular circumstances, particular challenges and problems that we face where we know very well that this is far beyond what you can handle, far beyond what your mother can handle, far beyond what your father or the person that you trust the most can handle. And then you need to call on the right person Just like the disciples, they called on Jesus in that instant because that's where their trust was. We will be unpacking that Bible story even further on the next episode, where we'll be grabbing our Bible and chill.